Hello and welcome to HR Masterclass today. It's great to see so many of you again. And I also see, I think there's still some people dialing in. So yeah, no worries. It's just me in the beginning making a short introduction. So there's still time, to grab your water. Do whatever you want still before John actually takes the stage. Because in the beginning, of course, I would also like to just say a few words about OpenUp, especially for those who maybe don't know us that well yet. At OpenUp, as you may know, it's our mission now to remove barriers to mental well-being. And how do we do that? Via our platform where we offer one-on-one sessions, but also group sessions and other self-guided learning options. And I actually just checked before this masterclass today. By now, we're supporting employees it's more than 1,500 companies now. So that's really quite a lot. And yeah, as you can see, we often also facilitate panels or masterclasses like these to also keep the discussion going with companies, with organizations, to empower you or to help you in your leadership strategy, in your HR strategy, and having exciting dialogues like this one. So what can you expect today? Today, we will talk about the topic of how HR can make mental well-being a priority in organizations. And we also have a Q&A in the end. So please already, when questions arise, just post them to the right in this question tab that you see there. And of course, you can always engage with us via the chat. We actually would really appreciate if you do. There is also this reaction button that I would like to show it to you. Yeah, you see, right? So that's it. Please make use of it. Then it's also nice for John, right? He gets some feedback, so that's really cool. So make use of it. And actually that's it about Livestorm, about this tool. And so then actually, that's enough talking from my side, I would say. I would like to welcome our guest today, John. John, you're head of business, HR business partnering and talent acquisition and L&D at Mister Spex. Yeah, it's really great to have you here. I'm really curious, to listen to your masterclass, and we'll give the stage. The stage is yours, basically.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Hi, everyone on the call. I am thrilled to be here today to talk a little bit more about something that is very near and dear to my heart. Anne-Marie didn't pay me to also say this, but we are users of OpenUp, and I myself have used the tool on a consistent basis. So we are fans of OpenUp, and thank you to the OpenUp community for having me today to be able to hopefully spread some knowledge and some really cool tools for us to be able to help you to be able to bring well-being into your organizations at any different levels. That's, I think, where I also want to start, is that there's multiple ways of, kind of getting to the top of the mountain. So this is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but of course, hope that this can be something that you use some of these different topics on to move forward. So a nice agenda. I'll introduce myself a little bit more about who you are listening to today. We'll talk a little bit more about the importance of well-being in the workplace, why you can go back to maybe potentially some of your managers, maybe some of your executives, to talk a little bit more about how this is going to be affecting certain things like their financials, their bottom line, retention, kind of the different, kind of pieces to the employee experience that are important for them, and what the role of HR is in this ecosystem. Following that, we'll go through some tools, some trainings and development, as well as some challenges and solutions that we've had here at Mister Spex and beyond. So hopefully, again, if you have experienced some of those things before as well, you can be able to take some things from that. Measuring and monitoring well-being. Of course, as an HR person in this modern society, data is always going to be very important for any kind of argument of why you should be able to invest into certain topics. And so hopefully, again, some suggestions for you to be able to take back, as well as the conclusion and the Q&A. So hopefully lots of nice things that we'll be able to go through today. As Anne-Marie was mentioning, I can't see any of you. So if you do have any reactions or if you do have any questions, please just post it in the chat. I'm very casual around this, and hopefully we can have a little bit of a dialogue as we proceed. So to tell you a little bit about me, as Anne-Marie mentioned, I am the head of HR business partnering, talent acquisition, and learning and development at Mister Spex. I've been here for about 3 years. Originally, I'm from Chicago. I did a couple of years in London working, but have called Berlin home for just about 3 years at this point as well. Vocal advocate for mental health and mental health awareness. The destigmatization of all of these topics is something that only talking about will be able to continue to be able to make better. So consistently trying to be able to bring this into the different ways and practices and the procedures that we have at Mister Spex and beyond, to be able to really guide people into the way of having conversations of this on a regular basis. In addition to that, a very large driver of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. This is something that we are consistently looking at, trying to be able to, again, look at what our role and what our purpose of HR is within the organization. This is going to depend, kind of, again, organization to organization, but this is something that we also at Mister Spex take quite seriously and want to be able to make sure that we are continually making a more fair, equitable, and diverse workplace for our teams as well. And I think finally, maybe the most important out of those four from my side is a child of wonder. Very much a person that likes and leads curiously and tries to be able to understand the problems and maybe the solutions in a little bit more of a curious way. Having, a lot more fun, in my opinion, doing so. But hopefully some of those realizations and those curiosities that I've been able to look into are going to prove useful for all of you today as well. All right, to talk a little bit more about the importance of mental well-being in the workplace. So if you have worked within the HR section before, some of these, are going to be well-known terms, but I will, for those maybe that aren't as deep into HR or in, kind of this field specifically, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about some of these terms as well. But in general, the I think number one driver of why it is important, kind of to have these mental health initiatives within the workplace is that it's going to create a healthy and a sustainable culture of openness. We are constantly fighting against, kind of this desire for us to be able to have a open dialogue and to be able to get departments to be able to talk to each other, for us to be able to kind of find root causes for different things. If you do not, kind of create the psychological safety for us to be able to, kind of move forward, for people to be able to feel like that they can make mistakes, and for you to be able to kind of give feedback on a regular basis, it is incredibly necessary for you to be able to have a dialogue around what mental health is and how mental health is going to be incorporated into, kind of the working styles of all of your different employees. Second is that it is, I think, a really interesting thing when it comes to just the world and the language that we've also been able to discover around mental health over the last couple of years, is that there's so much uniqueness when it comes to, kind of the employee experience. And that employee experience is also going to not be a one size fits all. So looking at it through a particular diversity, equity, and inclusion lens also lends itself to understanding that mental health issues are going to be very different culture to culture, person to person, gender to gender, and not always, but this is something that we also want to just make sure that as, kind of our employees are seen, kind of and recognized for their individual contributions, we also want to approach them with a unique employee experience that's going to tailor their needs and their purpose at the company that they're at as well. Next is to reduce absenteeism and presentism. So absenteeism, for those, again, that are not maybe aware of that word, is just basically being out of the office. If you are consistently needing to take time off due to, kind of the amount of stress, due to, kind of the amount of workload, due to the myriad of different things that work can contribute potentially to, kind of you having to take some time out. That is something that if you have a little bit more of a initiative and some more importance, kind of on these different topics, reduces, kind of that. And presentism is another way of saying that you are there, but not really there. So you're in person, kind of maybe sitting in the chair, but you're doing probably a very little amount, kind of that is going to be required for you to be able to actually execute on the job. And sometimes that's not even just because that you don't want to, but because of, again, the amount of stress, the amount of burnout, whatever it may be that you also are going to be facing at that point. The fourth is to improve, kind of our employee engagement and morale. I'm a big believer that happy employees are also a more productive employee as well. It also creates a really, really wonderful atmosphere, kind of like for individuals when you're able to have a consistent, kind of, I think, demonstration that this is something that the organization looks into and is going to be a large, kind of necessity for us to be able to move forward in. Enhancing productivity and performance, again, kind of this is, as I mentioned before, a opportunity for you to really find, a good working model that you can help managers and their employees to be able to find a good relationship for them to be able to have these conversations. And then in the long run, number 6 is then increasing the employee retention and loyalty. So all of these different topics, I know that there's a lot of, kind of just probably a little bit of a vagueness, kind of to some of these different words, but all of these topics have a financial impact as well. So when, kind of, again, someone is absent for a long time and maybe not going to be able to finish a project, that is going to be delays potentially in projects, kind of, and rollouts, potentially, kind of affecting, kind of some kind of profits that you're going to be looking at. Productivity and performance, kind of, again, same thing. Engagement and morale is that anyone who is in here, kind of, again, that is in the HR field knows that, just the amount of money that it costs to be able to go through the process of, hire to retire and then retire to hire again, that costs a lot of money. The cost of, kind of, again, maybe not having someone in that role for a while, the recruiter's cost, kind of the hiring manager's cost, the onboarding cost, all of those things, kind of are actually going to be able to add up. And if anyone's ever interested, happy to talk a little bit more about how you can financially actually demonstrate that and give a number based off of averages on where you're going to be able to see that financial impact is going to have on the organization as well. Now, to pivot into how HR then is going to be taking place and what their job is within this field is not, again, kind of probably everything, kind of that HR needs to, kind of, and should do when it comes to the role within this, but our job, from my perspective, is to be able to craft a comprehensive wellness program for our employees. And that's probably broken down into 4 different buckets in my world. There's policy development, communication and awareness, training and education, and then support systems as well. So policy development is going to be something that is very, I think, also nuanced based off of the clients or the employees that you are going to also have, is that flexible working arrangements are going to be something that maybe is going to be applicable for some people that work in a computer-based job. But if you work in a retail sector, kind of maybe is not going to be the arrangement, kind of, or maybe the wellness approach that you're going to be able to need. Or things, as I mentioned before, like an employee assistance program. This is something that we are very, very, very happy to, again, kind of have the employee assistance program of OpenUp. So really using this as well. We have posters throughout our building, and we are consistently trying to be able to include it into our leadership training. So having people, kind of aware of the certain trainings that OpenUp is also offering is definitely something that we can continue to be able to kind of also segue into, the training and education piece. But before we do, 2 other, kind of just really quick thoughts is that when it comes to policy development as well, is just thinking about lifestyle. We try to, kind of have not only the flexible working arrangements of certain people having different times in the office or not, but we also are trying to allow people to be able to work remotely in different locations. Maybe it's closer to their families, maybe that they are also going to be able to have, kind of a trust-based, kind of situation where it's maybe just a different, kind of vibe that they need, a change of scenery, which I always think is very healthy as well. Or even things that maybe are a little bit smaller, like a bring your dog to the office policy. All of these things, kind of like mental health is not a, kind of a one thing happened. Mental health is multiple things, kind of over time and, kind of generations, is something that is also going to consistently be, kind of a building block. So if you can be able to potentially, again, not ignore that a person who is a worker is also a person outside of their, kind of job and has other responsibilities, it gives them hopefully the flexibility that they're going to maybe need in their personal life as well. Communication and awareness. It is, as I mentioned at the beginning, one of my, I think, crusades is to destigmatize mental health issues. A lot of that is modeling, and really as an HR department and hopefully as a leadership organization, really trying to be able to live those values as much as possible, but then sharing the resources. And making sure that everyone is aware, again, whether that is putting stuff up on a intranet, whether that is having, kind of a consistent reminder of it. We actually have a newsletter that goes out on a monthly basis, and that always has OpenUp, our employee assistance program. It also has other things, kind of that we try to highlight around mental health as well. But always, kind of, I think that you can't communicate enough when it comes to the different platforms that might be available at your organization as well. And then training and education. Training sessions, kind of, and workshops to educate employees and managers. I'll talk a lot about the managers in a little bit, but I think part of it is also for the employees to know that their managers are also going through this training is very important as well. Because part of, kind of any kind of situation that you're going to work with is going to have to need that trust-based system. And that goes into, potentially even the support systems, is that some organizations, kind of have specific groups that are going to be focused around either diversity topics, health and well-being topics, or even, kind of like mental health, specific mental health topics as well. Some of these are used a little bit more for a business resource, and some of them are used for an employee resource group. So both of those are both opportunities for you to be able to also kind of build together a more comprehensive wellness approach. All right, now to hopefully get into some more juicy stuff that you can be able to walk away with. The number one, I think, again, the thing that I am consistently trying to be able to encourage at the organization is shared accountability of this. So having everyone, kind of have a seat at the table, and one of those biggest advocates or, kind of, I think, groups that you can really be able to work with is empowering managers. On the next couple of slides, you're going to see, I won't go through necessarily the quotes, but this is from an article from the Harvard Business Review that came out, I think, within the last 6 months, about just basically the manager's effect on people's mental health. And you'll see that I'll paraphrase this one, kind of very quickly, but managers have an incredible impact, kind of on people's mental health, more sometimes, kind of than some of the closest people within, kind of their direct contact. And that's a huge amount of responsibility. And so part of our responsibility, I think, with HR is helping those to help others. And this is a big piece of this, is that it's not a natural thing for every manager to either be a manager or to be able to have these kind of conversations. And so I think sometimes it's really about making the implicit explicit, because if you're in this room, I would assume you're probably interested in this topic. And so you probably have some of these tools that are already, kind of some of these things that maybe I'm already even talking about. However, there are a lot of people that might not have these tools or these resources, or they've never been educated on this. And so it's really about, kind of thinking about how to be able to have positive impacts on people, not just because it's, again, going to be a business output, but also just the right thing to be able to do. But it is about integrating these practices into the employee life cycle. And that hopefully will be able to help them with multiple different things, like increasing, kind of their focus, reducing stress, and just having a better life, kind of work-life balance as well. But it has to be something that builds to cultivate this kind of awareness and this emotional intelligence. It's not something that probably will happen just overnight. And one of the things that we consistently are going to be encouraging managers to do on a regular basis is something called the "Are you okay?" conversation. So we have educated our staff, and mostly, again, kind of this is going to be on the manager side of things, about how to approach the "Are you okay?" conversation. This is something that can be when you are noticing something is maybe not 100% right, but you can also have this or how are you okay conversation on a pretty regular basis as well. In all of my direct report meetings, kind of that I have on a weekly basis, we have a version of this. And I will be very honest with you, is that it was a little awkward at first for everyone, but it sometimes takes some time for you to be able to get to that place where they're really opening up to you to be able to have that kind of conversation about how they're really doing at that point. So our approach is, kind of, again, you need to be ready and be prepared. It's also about picking the moment. We'll go into a little bit about what that means as well. But the conversation steps are for you, again, kind of a 4 principle that we'll go through in a little bit more detail, but to ask, listen, encourage action, and then to be able to check in on this. Mental health, as I mentioned before, is not just a one day, kind of event or a bad day or a bad week, kind of, it is something that is compounded over time. And so it's not, kind of enough from our perspective for you to just have one conversation around it and for it to be done. The benefits, kind of, I think is what we've probably seen a lot or talked a little bit about already, is a positive impact on innovation, engagement, and retention, connecting people to resources, and then also giving people a purpose and a reason to care. So giving a clear sense of what success is and what, kind of they can be able to do to be able to help, or what we can be able to do to help as managers is also quite useful for them as well. So to break it down a little bit further, is that we really try to encourage managers to go through these 4 steps. We've given them, kind of, again, this information so that they can really just be able to use this on even the most specific things, but coming into the conversation to really be able to, again, inquire about maybe something that they've noticed recently, making, kind of some specific observations if there are certain things, kind of, that they have maybe going, kind of, that isn't typical behavior of them. And then, of course, kind of opening up this conversation to be able to make sure that they are aware is that you are concerned, kind of around just them, kind of, and their general well-being. When it comes to, kind of what they are going to say, is that this is where things can get tough for managers. So a lot of managers, again, are usually, I would say, trying to fix a lot of solutions, kind of. And so I would say is that your first job is not to fix, but to just be able to listen. So it's about not interrupting, do not rush the conversation, and really try to be able to sit there with them to be able to say, hey, kind of, I'm here and I'm just, kind of someone that is going to be able to digest what you're saying. When you are also going to be in some of these situations, it might lead into, kind of, an opportunity where someone is going to get upset, or someone is going to get into an emotional state that you might, kind of, also not be 100% prepared for. And that's why, again, kind of, coming into these conversations, acknowledging that is quite a important thing for you as a manager to also realize, is that this is not something that always is just light and easy. It will be something that maybe is going to be something that is emotionally charged. And so just being prepared to be able to also, for yourself, come into that conversation as well. And again, this is about them. It's not about you. So it's all about listening and being able to validate their responses. From there, we encourage managers to take action. So, where can we go from here? What are the first steps that we can be able to make? We really try to, again, kind of encourage people to use OpenUp or a different kind of, kind of employee assistance program that you might have. As for us, it has led to a lot of really, really wonderful benefits that we have seen just anecdotally, is that people more and more, we've had OpenUp now for, I think, a couple of years, and people more and more are openly sharing that they use OpenUp as well. And that's great, kind of, again, in that kind of side of things of destigmatizing, is that everyone has, kind of a moment that they're going to need help, whether that is from, kind of OpenUp, a friend, a family, kind of. And so it's really about encouraging this action from this individual to say, hey, kind of, like, let's try to come together to be able to, kind of, find some way to be able to move forward, or to take some action from here as well. And then I think, again, one of the most important things is that you have to continue to be able to check in on this. So it should be a routine practice. Again, sometimes, kind of when things are maybe even a little bit more intense, it's about having a 15-minute check-in on a regular basis. And it's scheduled, it's in the calendar. If everything is great, that's great. You can at least have that spot that is reserved, and really try not to reschedule it. Do not, kind of move it. Do not cancel it. If the individual wants to at one point, then it is worthwhile for them to take control over that. But of course, it is your job to keep encouraging them and reminding them that you are there as a manager, understanding that this is something that does not get fixed probably also overnight if it is something more severe, and try to, kind of, again, reinforce the benefits of seeking help and trying different things. I know for myself is that for the first couple of times that I went to my own therapy, is that I don't like to use the word necessarily shop around, but, I needed to find someone that fit me and that I also felt comfortable with. And so it was also about finding a therapist, that I also felt was, and this is outside of OpenUp, but, something that was good for me. Maybe walking, is good for you, or exercising, but for other people, that's not, and I won't get into the science and medicine into, this, but there are so many ways for everyone to be able to find their own adventure, on their mental health well-being side of things. It's encouraging people to be able to also find that and come with suggestions, if you have something maybe as a manager, but don't push, I think that's the thing too, is that if you want to come with some suggestions, great. But remember that each individual is their own unique, situation, and is going to have their own unique needs for them to be able to also move forward as well. Next thing that we are going to encourage all of our teams to do is incorporate mental health into meetings. So this was a little bit of an interesting one for me, because I came into the situation thinking that I know my team, we're all going to have, kind of a similar conversation to what we, kind of are usually having. But this is a really interesting and fun exercise because the amount of emotion and the amount of, kind of, I think, opening up that people also had with this is quite significant, especially, kind of for you to be able to get a temperature check of maybe how your team is doing. So how this works is that one after another, so let's say that you have a room of 10 people and you're sitting around a table. First person in the table says, I feel like I am incredibly overwhelmed. I feel that I have too much on my plate right now. I am really nervous about hitting deadlines, but I'm in. And then the group around, so everyone around besides that person, says welcome. So then the next person goes, and that person might not feel like that they are ready for this. So they just say, I'm going to pass. And everyone still says welcome. Then the next person says, I'm really tired. Kind of, I had a really bad night. My kids were up all night. And so I'm really tired, but I'm excited to be here today. So what I'm going to ask for everyone is if you are interested or if you are wanting to participate in the chat, if you want to maybe give a I feel like or an I am, I would be happy to give you a welcome at this as well. But again, something that surprised me about how open people were and what, kind of really came out of the situation. The first time that we did this, I cried, to be very honest, because it was just such a highly emotional thing that people were very honest and true, kind of, and there was a lot of really nice, I think, opportunity for all of us to understand that we're all in this together and that we are all much more similar than we are different when it comes to our daily struggles. And there is a lot of, kind of things that we can be able to do to just show each other more compassion and more empathy as well. So again, something that I found quite useful for me to be able to also connect. And I think that my team also found quite a nice opportunity for them to be able to connect as well with each other. While people are writing, I'll continue to move on to our next topic as well. The next one is incorporating mental health into feedback. So for many, feedback is a fight or flight situation where you are going to be defensive if you get feedback, or you are going to potentially just break down, kind of and cry and say, I'm sorry, I didn't do it. It's so important for people to be able to incorporate mental health into feedback, because this is something that I think also can be a catalyst for a lot of damage for individuals as well. Is that kind of feedback is oftentimes kind of constructive. It's not enough times kind of praising. So it's really, really, again, kind of around also kind of knowing that both of those things are important. But when it comes to how we educate, so we have multiple feedback kind of cycles at Mister Spex on a regular basis. And we always encourage people to be able to kind of frame the conversation in a couple of different ways. First of all, is that feedback is not a truth. Feedback is an opinion based off of someone's own lived experiences. And it is about, kind of, again, making sure that everyone, kind of in the room is pretty much on the same page to be able to receive. So when I have, kind of my feedback conversations, and how we teach people is that we really kind of try to understand how that person is feeling today, and if they're ready to receive that feedback. I'll give it just a quick example, is that I had someone, kind of that I could feel that there was something a little bit off. We were scheduled to have this, and they said, no, I just want to have the conversation. Everything is fine. I asked again, and it turned, kind of out again that their dog was very sick over the night. They didn't get a lot of sleep, kind of, they were very, very tired. And in the long run, what I'm so grateful for is that he had the opportunity and the trust to be able to say, hey, kind of like, I am feeling a lot of different things at this point. I'm sure he could have powered through, but we had such a more productive conversation when we rescheduled this, and we rescheduled it to the next day. So it wasn't, kind of that it was for 2 more weeks, kind of something in the future, but definitely something that, kind of, when in doubt, ask twice. If people are ready to receive the feedback and they understand what the purpose and the goal is of that meeting. Again, choosing the right time and right place. If your employee is visibly overwhelmed or stressed, ask them. You don't have to, kind of just glaze over that, kind of, are they in the right state of mind? And if not, reschedule. Very much so. If they have a deadline, if, kind of the CEO sent them an email that says that they need something by the end of the day, I promise you they're just thinking about that email, and they're not thinking about the feedback that you're giving them. And they'll have probably a much more aggressive, potentially, kind of feedback to your feedback if they're not in the right state of mind. Of course, kind of, I always advise to avoid feedback in public, especially if it's constructive feedback. If it is praise, I think, again, in public is great, but it just has to be something that also is not always what the person wants. And so making sure that the person understands, if you are going to give praise in public, that they want to be praised in public, because some people don't like that as well. And then making sure that you're scheduling enough time. In this as well is that it is always worthwhile, especially if you're giving, kind of some specific feedback on constructive, to focus also on the positive. Most people, kind of, I would say, are doing their best. Recognize, kind of, again, where there is strength. Use the ESPN model, which is the situation, behavior, impact, and next steps, really to be able to kind of make it less personal as well. So if you are going to be giving feedback, and there's another, kind of, again, thing that we train here called radical candor, which is very much about being direct, but also having a high amount of care. But you have to be able to also kind of give this a very direct approach when it comes to what the situation was, the meeting, the behavior, kind of like how you spoke, the impact, I was proud, and then the next steps, kind of like, I'd like you to teach, kind of, some public speaking in the future. So again, really kind of making it as clear as possible, kind of, and not making it personal, so that the person also sees that this is just for their growth and for their development as well. And then follow up and monitor progress. Kind of, we are a SMART goals organization. So making sure that they're measurable, making sure that they're attainable, making sure, kind of, that they're trackable, all those wonderful things for them to be able to also have a clear map about what, kind of, they need to do to potentially have to be able to improve on their side too. All right. These are a couple of different challenges and solutions that had come up at Mister Spex, and hopefully some stuff that I can be able to maybe, if not, kind of taking some of these direct approaches, maybe inspire some other, kind of ways of working. So we had one of our challenges is that there was a lack of discussion and acknowledgement on mental health. And so I'm not sure if everyone is familiar, but in November, there is this thing called No Shave November, and it is about men's, mostly men's physical health. And we use this as a springboard for us to be able to talk about all of men's health. Men's health is also something that men, kind of are sometimes, kind of more stereotypically not, kind of as open, kind of to some of these topics. And so we really wanted to also kind of like really drive this as a, kind of a priority for us as well, to be able to talk. We got our CEO to speak on the panel. We got every different kind of level, all the way from a customer service level, a product manager, kind of really a lot of people throughout the business. We had sessions both in English and in German. And this was a great way for us to, kind of, again, open up the dialogue, kind of, and really be able to bring men's mental health and just mental health just in general up into, kind of like the ecosystem here at Mister Spex as well. That's just one of many, kind of, I think, things that you can be able to do. But another thing that I think probably a lot of you are also feeling, if you are especially an HR professional, is the complaints about stress, working hours, workload. We put on a training around assertiveness and productivity, and what it basically means to say no. And we had one of our HR colleagues, kind of put this on. And so it felt a little bit more like advocated for as well, kind of that we, kind of within the HR department, kind of as champions of a healthy work life as well, want you to be able to have, kind of a strong, kind of ability for you to be able to say, this is what my priorities are. This is also, kind of by saying no to this, I'm saying yes to that. And so again, one of the ways that we were able to kind of combat a little bit of some of these difficulties with working, kind of workload, kind of, and work environment as well. Employees who performed well, kind of that are now unproductive. So we've seen, kind of some of these individuals that maybe, kind of are on a skyrocket in their career, kind of taking on a lot of different responsibilities, but maybe not sustainably. So it's empowering people, kind of with as much choice we see as possible in where, when, and how they work. So giving people a little bit more of that sense of control, kind of as well. So that again is going to be stuff like the remote working, flexible hours, longer lunch breaks. One of my direct reports takes 2 hours at lunch, and she spends 2 hours outside. But kind of she is able to kind of again work her time kind of at different hours. And so I think it's also as kind of an organization trying to be able to lead through that trust-based system, kind of so that employees know that it is a results kind of culture, and not kind of just a butts in seat kind of like at a certain hour kind of situation either. And then workplace conflict, kind of that causes anxiety for some workers. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar, but there is a book, kind of that is the 5 elements of, dysfunctions of a team. So those 5 dysfunctions are the absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. So we did a training for all of our managers as well to talk about those 5 dysfunctions of a team and ways to be able to combat that as well. So again, there's so many different ways that you can be able to incorporate some of these different topics, and happy again, kind of to dive into any of this further if anyone wants, kind of in the Q&A, or even, kind of in another potential, kind of communication. But really, really, again, we found it useful for all of these different challenges that we had around mental health, and then the actions to be able to move this forward. Our final kind of big topic, which I think is just, again, a really important thing for you to be able to also go back to your organizations and say why this is important, is that taking a more preventative approach requires an understanding of where people are at, even currently, and to be able to assess where the problems can be able to kind of come up soon. So by tracking, kind of the health of your employees, it will really help, kind of to be able to minimize the impact of even just the current market conditions. I think everyone here also knows that it's not an easy, kind of situation. There are wars, there are climate, kind of issues. There are constantly, kind of things in the news that are really kind of affecting all of us on a regular basis with the amount of, kind of things that we're exposed to. But kind of within this current marketplace as well, we want to be able to find the root causes of the burnout, disengagement, and the regrettable churn, so that we can, again, take maybe some of those actions that we can have more control over in this, big, crazy world, and the things that we can maybe, again, influence a little bit more here internally as well. This also will help with limiting unnecessary admin and time-consuming work, because you, again, are going to be able to look at this stuff on a more regular basis and then empower those people leaders. So especially if you have a tool that is going to be able to show maybe even specific managers above a certain threshold, kind of how their team is going to be doing, is that you can address these in more micro sessions instead of macro sessions on what, again, specific needs of your team are going to be as well. These are a couple of sample questions, but I think, again, on the right, I'll just call this one, kind of additional fact out, is that 1 in 3 employees feel that their employee isn't doing enough for their mental health. And so I think one thing that you can start with is asking how their mental health is. And so I think, again, if that is something that you start to ask, it also is going to be something that you should follow up with. So be prepared, kind of that if you do ask, is that people will probably expect that you do something, kind of with that information as well. So again, I won't have all of these, kind of, I won't go through all of these, but, any stress in my role is easily manageable. I am able to take time away from work when I am unwell. This is, I think, an interesting telling one about culture, kind of as well, is that if people are sick and working while they are sick, then they have probably an unhealthy, kind of, I think, I would say an unhealthy relationship, kind of like with their workload, because they feel that they cannot even take the amount of time to physically be able to recover that they should be taking, kind of, and I think is a very interesting, kind of tell for the mental health, kind of, and wellness, kind of where the company is at, or even just, kind of, again, employee health and well-being are a priority at Mister Spex. If you are getting low answers on that, then it's time, kind of for you and your organization to think, how can we be able to communicate maybe more effectively what we're doing currently, or to be able to think about better initiatives for us to be able to move forward as well. Okay. So it has been such a pleasure for me to, kind of, again, give you a couple of the insights that we have done here, kind of at Mister Spex over the last couple of years and months as well. And I think, again, it's probably overwhelming to think about the amount of, kind of stuff that needs to be done on a regular basis around this topic. But I encourage you to find this as an opportunity to be able to create a really great work experience for your employees, that you can help connect people, that you can drive results that are worth celebrating by also being authentic and being vulnerable. Again, I think if you're in this call, you probably see the value of that already, but it's encouraging those that maybe aren't in the call to, kind of think about this stuff, kind of as well. But it really, I think, kind of also goes a long way, just ensuring, kind of that you're helping people feel seen, heard, appreciated, and understood. So as you, kind of, I think, move, kind of forward and thinking about, kind of what you want to do, kind of, and maybe even something from this presentation, how will you do your best to help others do their best at the workplace? That is the job of, I believe, our managers. That is the job of our leaders. That is the job of our HR, kind of team as well. But how will you? And I look forward to, kind of, again, maybe hearing some of that, maybe even in the Q&A, of really inspiring and awesome things that your teams are also doing. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, John, for your inspiring keynote. Thanks a lot. That's great. Let's move on to the Q&A. So that's also like a little reminder, for those of you at home or in the office, please post your questions in the question tab. Meanwhile, of course, we also have prepared some questions up front, or while actually you did the keynote, I thought, that's something that I would really like to to ask you. So let's start with that. Then maybe everybody feels also a bit more empowered to ask their own, to post their own questions in the chat or in the question tab. And the first question, John, I wondered while you were mentioning that, you had everybody in the ecosystem involved, like the CEO gave a panel, the HR colleague gave a training. And I wondered, that's actually my first question, how did you do that? Because I have been working in environments where it was really like extremely hard, right, to motivate everybody to do this kind of extra work additional to the workload they already have.
Yeah. I think that part of what we also saw is that there are certain people that are passionate about these kind of topics. And I think it's also about choosing, kind of like your advocates to a certain degree, and building, kind of those relationships in, is that we saw, kind of that it isn't everyone's, kind of, but this individual, our CEO, he specifically had a family member, kind of that also, kind of was going through or had gone through in the past, kind of some more, I would say, physical, kind of things. And so it was something that we knew that he was passionate about this topic and wanted to be also able to, kind of maybe express, kind of a little bit more. And this kind of, I think, started a little bit of that tidal wave as well, is that him, kind of, I think, speaking and being at that level of kind of speaking, I think encouraged others to also to be able to do this. A fun one that I haven't, kind of we haven't done yet, is that we have an individual within our tech organization. He's quite senior. And he, for a long time, was going to coaching, and he recently switched to going to therapy. And so one of my next, kind of, I think, adventures or, kind of desires for us to be able to do is to do a fireside chat of how his impact, kind of like switching from coaching to therapy has affected him, kind of just in general as well. So I think it's a little bit about, kind of, I think, having, again, that deeper connection to people to also understand, kind of when you maybe need to be able to lean on them. Relationship management is also, I think, as all of us know as well, is huge, kind of within organizations. And so really kind of being able to build your internal network. But you are absolutely right, is that it is not easy, kind of to get people to do more, kind of on top of their additional workload.
Thank you. Yeah, I can imagine, like, or especially, of course, in your role, it's extremely important, right, to know who to talk to or to lean onto them. But super nice that you're able to do so. Yeah. And another thing I wondered, actually, and that's also a question that we often get, within OpenUp, we get from our retail clients. Mister Spex, of course, you also have a huge logistics and retail department. And I really wondered, like, you have different challenges there, of course. Mm-hmm. How do you make sure that you're really, like, activating those people as well? Because, of course, it's easier always to send an email to those who are in the office or who maybe see what you're doing, or they see, also your presence there in the headquarters maybe. But I really wonder, like, how do you take all these employees with you on this journey?
It's for us, kind of specifically as well, it's really being able to have like you said, a focus, kind of on the difference and calling out that difference, kind of with those employees as well. It even boils down to what reward and recognition is for those people, or career development. Is that some of these, kind of individuals that are working, kind of in retail, they have different, kind of career ambitions, kind of than someone who's potentially like an IT, kind of software engineer kind of thing. So I think it really is, like you mentioned, taking an approach that's going to have a different, kind of, I guess, lens to it as well. But one of the, I think, things that we introduced, especially for, kind of our retail employees, is that we wanted to make sure that, kind of, because all of our retail stores are going to be based throughout Germany and, kind of the DACH market, is that we also introduced a job bike. So with Eurorod, we started, kind of a bike leasing program as well, so that people could use, kind of, again, this as a additional benefit. So we wanted to also kind of take a little bit of a comprehensive look at our benefits as well, and make sure, that this wasn't just a one size fits all approach. This is something that we ended up actually giving to all of our employees as well. So it started actually in retail, kind of, that we wanted to offer this to our employees. And a thing, kind of, that this came from was one of our employee engagement surveys, is that, they were saying this was something that they wanted. This was something, kind of, that was beneficial for their health, for their balance, kind of, as well as, kind of, just for their transportation, kind of, as well. And so wonderful way for us to also kind of pivot into, kind of, listening to our employees and asking them, kind of, like, what you also need, kind of, so that they feel that they are included, kind of, into this, like you said, larger ecosystem as well.
Yeah, super nice indeed that you're not only looking on also looking at the benefits actually that you can give to the retail people in this case,
Yeah.
because biking also has a positive effect and might be
Yeah.
easier, like applicable, right, in your daily lifestyle.
Totally.
Yeah, super nice. Well, yeah, so looking at the time, I would say, well, let's wrap it up, right? Because I see there's right now no more question incoming. But yeah, of course, also, I think, you can contact John also on LinkedIn, me as well, of course, should there be any questions. So yeah, please reach out to us. Should you afterwards think, oh, that's actually something that I really wanted to ask, but yeah, I didn't do it during the session, please feel free to do so. And thank you all for participating. I think now, let's wrap up the workday and let's start our evening. And thank you, John, for for your inspiring keynote.
Thanks,
and that you were here today.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.